Hey there. If you're a frequent listener to our show, you already know that our show is brought to you by our friends over at Artillery Sports. But what you may not know is that Artillery Sports helps athletes of all types win on and off the course and court. They do this by selling quality, durable, and precision manufactured sports equipment that keeps you in the game, while also using a portion of the profits to provide the funding needed to care for our nation's veterans. With Artillery Sports, it's more than just a game. So head over to artillerysports.com today to buy the quality equipment you need to keep you in the game and to help our nation's veterans at the same time. That's artillerysports.com. Make sure you head on over there today. Oh, and use the code DOCFIRST to get 10% off your first order. Welcome to Documentary First, an inside look at documentary filmmaking. I am your host, Christian Taylor, and this weekend I am joined, it actually is weekend, I can't believe I just said that. It is a Saturday morning. This is not my usual filming day, and this weekend I am joined by a very special guest. Before I introduce him, I do want to explain. It is a Saturday morning, and I am actually filming from Kentucky, and I'm at Lake Malone in somewhere outside of Fort Campbell, Kentucky, frankly. I'm here seeing my son, Jonah Taylor. So you'll see I'm sort of in some cabin in the woods near the lake, and it's a relaxed Saturday morning. And I'm happy to be spending this time this morning with Matt Beurois, who is a French filmmaker that is represented by Virgil Films. Joe and Tim have introduced me to Matt, who has a new film coming out called Fancy Like, and we are delighted to have you here, Matt. Thank you so much for spending your Saturday morning with us here this morning.
Thank you for having me. And it
Yeah,
sounds lovely near a lake on a
yeah,
weekend.
it
Happy to
is.
be
It's
with you.
beautiful. I wish you could actually be sitting in this little kitchen living room with me. I am looking at you, yes, but I'm also looking out this beautiful
With you.
window with this lake and fall leaves. And I see actually this little fisherman out in his boat fishing in this beautiful lake. It's a lovely fall
Sweet.
day. So wish you could be here. But anyway, we have our coffee, and we'll have coffee and have film conversations together. And it's going to be a nice Saturday morning. So
It's going to be very happy to be here.
well, let me introduce you before we begin. This gentleman sitting before us is a multi-award winning director and filmmaker. His directorial debut, The Barn, a slow burn zombie thriller, I can't wait to hear about that, was released in North America in 2018. The movie has since been released in more than 20 countries and re-released on DVD in several European territories. Beurois is the recipient of multiple festival awards for writing, directing, and editing. You are multi talented. Releasing in 2024, Fancy Like Walker Hayes is directed, produced, edited by Beurois. But I also understand that you had a lovely wife who helped you
Yes.
as well. So I can't wait to hear about her. This film represents 2 years of independent production and post production coming together to allow the fans and audiences to relive the Fancy Like phenomenon. A film about a song with over a billion, that's right, a billion views, and an artist who has over 1 million Instagram fans and 3.5 million TikTok followers. This movie is definitely one you guys are going to want to watch. So, that is the movie Fancy Like, and this is the director, Matt. Matt, it is so nice to have you with us. Thank you.
Very happy to be here. And I think we're going to have a very interesting conversation about
Yeah,
our
we
country,
already we
making.
have been.
Yeah, it's we said a few stuff that you just said, oh, we should keep that for the actual interview because this is going to make sense for the listeners.
Yeah, we have already been talking, I think, for about 40 minutes because I was so shocked to find out that you were a Frenchman, not just in name only, but you had a French accent and you had a French wife and you really were from France with a
Yeah.
whole French background and family that probably was liberated by Allied forces, and this was all an accident, or maybe a
Yeah.
setup by Joe, who thought this first filmmaker from Virgil Films should be someone from France.
Yeah. Yeah, from France. I moved with my wife to the US in 2017. and we created our company here. The company which we've made The Barn and another film that's going to get out next year, and Fancy Like Walker Hayes, and been living here for the past since 2017. And yeah, we left our country, we left Europe to come here and try and live the dream in Los Angeles first, and then we love to travel, so we've been to many different states, and yeah, we are kind of finding our new home here, and very happy to be in this country.
Well, there's so many questions. First of all, can we give your lovely wife a name? What is her name?
Her name is Oregon, just like the state. The
Oregon.
spelling is different, but it sounds like the state of Oregon. And for that movie, and for all of my movies, actually, she produced all of them. She's a very skilled and talented producer. She has all the human skills that I don't have when I'm on set, uh, thankfully. And for Walker Hayes, she also was the B camera most
Oh,
of the time.
okay.
She's also a photographer, a designer, and for the first film we did together, The Barn, she also was the scriptwriter with me. So we're
Oh,
already we're a pair of people,
yeah.
and we work together in a lot of capacities.
You guys are a power couple. That's fantastic. So I am curious. You must have all gotten your education in France, yeah?
Yes, yes,
How
I
did
did.
you learn your skills?
The skills of filmmaking.
Yeah.
I I wanted to go to filmmaking school in France, and they did not want me.
Really?
They did not want me, and that was a very very hard time. But when I received the letter of rejection, basically, I had a day I was very low, and I
Mm.
was very sad and not understanding what was happening to me. But the day after that, I used it as fuel. Say, okay, they don't want me. I'm gonna do it anyway. I'm
Hmm.
going to do it anyway. I'm going to make the films I want, the way I want, and I'm going to surround myself with talented people. And everything I don't know, I'm either going to learn how to do it, or I'm going to make friends and network and find people who are going to be willing to work with me, and me willing to work with them on their project. Um, I've always wanted to make movies. Since I was a very young kid, I recorded with a VHS machine the movies, every movie that was on French TV. So we had movies back in the days on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday.
Hmm.
So most of the channels were airing movies on these 4 days. So I was on Monday, I was watching a movie and recording another one, and
Huh.
same on Tuesday and all that. And all the movies I recorded, I spent the weekend watching.
Interesting.
So I must have watched in a few years, maybe 3 years, 4 years, I don't know, 2,000 movies.
Wow.
And I made my whole movie education recording movies on TV, and then going to not Blockbuster, but the same that not the same name, but the same video stores in France. And from black and white movies to documentaries to John Carpenter to, I don't know, anyone you could name. I've watched a ton of movies. And we had one thing with my friends back in the days. Every weekend, we would make a film.
Hmm.
So some of the classes we had, we would not listen at all, but we would write scripts and just write on a piece of paper and then turn it around the group of friends we were. And when the weekend come, they would come to my mom's house, or we would come to another friend's house, and every weekend we would change, and we would make almost a movie, a different movie every weekend. So that's how I learned to operate a camera. That's
Hmm.
how I learned how to frame an image, how I learned how to move the camera for the next shot. Because when you do it for the first time, okay, let's do this, and you film it, and then okay, but now we want to see the feet on the ground. Okay, so let's move the camera. So we really learned by making it. These
Sure.
movies were terrible at first, obviously, but we learned the language of
Mhm.
cinematography and the writing of the through the image, and then obviously through the editing. And that's how I learned. And I never went to film school. I did read a ton of books, but yeah, I just made it. Just made movies.
That is so fascinating. Even Ken Burns says the same thing. Like, you can go to film school, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You just have to do. You just have to do. And even film school really is reading. It's reading and doing. You can
Yeah.
learn, but you learn by doing and by watching others and by watching others work. And um, so you just put yourself through school early and informally, really.
Yep, definitely. And
And what about
then
your wife? Was she one of the ones in the neighborhood that was kind of doing
absolutely
the same?
not. We
No.
met much later on. So I moved to Toulouse in France for school, and that's where I met her. I was making a short film actually, and I went to the local theater school because I needed actors, and
Right.
she was one of these people. And after that, I made a music video for her because she's a music artist, always
Ah,
has been, and that's how we started to work together, and we've been together ever since.
how about that? That's fantastic. Well, it's interesting that you talk about how you were rejected from film school. The schooling in France, as I've learned just a little bit about the schooling in France over my years there, it is very different than here in the educational
It
system
is.
here, in that you are in sort of a track after your middle school years, and
Mhm.
you have to declare some things early on, which
Too
is,
early.
are too way too early. Are you going to go a professional route, or are you going to go a tradesman route?
Yeah.
And you have to pick which kind of specialty you're going into, and then you're kind of locked into this tract, and you just have to develop those skills.
Yeah.
And there really is no deviating from that, really. And there's not a lot of, and the economy too is so different than ours, and you get locked in certain ways that is very difficult to break out of once you get in these tracks, be they school or be they economy. And so thinking outside of the box for anything in schooling or in business is quite unusual in my experience. I mean, am I wrong about this?
Yes and no, in a sense that yes, you have to make a decision way too early when you're too young. Okay, what do you want to do? What track do you want to choose? And once you choose, it's very hard to, you cannot go back because you would have to go back to previous years and you cannot do that. And changing is very difficult. But it started to change a little bit.
Okay.
You are, I don't want to say allowed, but there are many ways now in France when your original diploma or specialty or field is not something that you wish to pursue. You can go to professional training. You can, in your adult life, you can learn the skills again that you feel are going to suit you better. Um,
Okay.
once you are capable of making the decision and
Right.
now you know what you actually want to do
I
and
see.
not do with your life. But I was, a lot of French students are going to go, okay, I want to do mathematics or literature or neither of them. And I was neither of them. So I went to economics and science, which is kind of the middle route. And that opened me to sociology, philosophy, marketing, economy. And these notions that I learned still help me a lot in the
Sure.
movie making business side,
Mhm.
understanding the mechanics of the economy, the need to make money, even with an entertainment piece.
Yeah.
And yeah, and when I was rejected from the film school, I wondered, okay, what do I want to do that's going to be as close as possible as that? And I went to marketing school because I wanted to create images. So in my mind, I'm okay, I'm going to create commercials. Okay. And that became a blessing actually, because learning marketing and the history of print and creation and advertisement really put me in a position to maybe be better armed when I went into the film business, because I am a director, okay, but I do understand, again, the mechanics of how to sell a product. So I've always tried to make movies that are pieces of storytelling, but also when I write a script, when I start a project, I'm asking myself and the team around, what is going to be our leverage when we are going to be in a position we're going to be wanting to sell that film, when we want to convince other people to bet on us and our film. And to me, that's the ID stage or the script stage.
Listen, I am going to argue that the route that you went is probably the best route you could have gone for a
It
film.
works for me. It works for me.
It should work for anybody, because I feel like, and I've argued this from, the time I began, and particularly since I finished my film, is that far too few people think about the business aspect of it when you start
Yeah.
off with your film. We think, I want to make my vision, I want to make my art, I have this idea. We never ever think about what we're going to do with it after. What does the audience really want? Where are we going to sell it? Who actually is going to buy this? What is our marketing going to look like? Where is it going to fit in the marketplace? We don't think about any of those things because
And
we haven't
remember
been
one
trained.
very important thing: you're not going to sell your movie yourself. Some
True.
film you could. It's actually not that complicated to create an Amazon account and to distribute your own movie. You could do it, but you need to have the connections and the contacts, and to, once the movie is available, who's going to watch it? So it's 90% of the time it's going to be much better to have a distribution company, and you want to find a partner that's going to understand your movie, but also that's going to bring to the table, how am I going to sell that film to the different outlets that need to have it. My point was, when you create your film, you want to create it in a way that you're going to have to let people in at some point. It's your story, it's your baby, it's your thing. You're going to be working on it maybe a couple of years, like I did. But at some point, you got to let people in, and you got to let their expertise serve your film.
Yes.
And you always want to leave that space. If you do something that's too perfect, you don't need anyone, then nobody's going to want to work with you.
Yeah.
So you want to leave that space for a producer, for a financier, for a distribution company, for a press agent. So they are gonna feel like, okay, that's also my project. I'm not just getting paid to work on that film. It's something I want to do. And definitely the people we work with for that film, I'm very happy to work with them, Joe and Tim and the whole team, and Caroline in my case, because they know the film has potential commercially, I believe, but they also know, okay, that movie was made with good intentions.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the film, let's kind of dive in. This is a very unique film. It is a movie film, but it's not really about, I mean, it's sorry, it's a music film, but it's not really about the music
No,
necessarily.
yes.
So it's very connected to the music, and it wouldn't exist without the music. But why don't you give us the log line, and for starters, tell us a little bit about the story?
So Fancy Like Walker Hayes is a documentary that retraces the steps of the Fancy Like phenomenon. Fancy Like was a number one song in America, North America, and many countries in the world in 2021, I think. And that was the first time Walker Hayes, country music artist, had a number one in his career. Very much deserved. He's been working 17 years in Nashville before he had that big break. He had another song before that, You Broke Up With Me. I think that climbed up to number 3 or number 6 on the top Billboard charts. And that was a song when I first traveled to the US. I heard You Broke Up With Me on the radio.
Wow.
And I loved that song. And I told my wife, hey, the guy singing that song, he sounds cool. He sounds like a good guy.
Wow.
And when I like a movie, a song, or an artist or anything, I'm going on YouTube and I'm gonna watch interviews because
Okay.
okay, you have the artist and what they want to show you, and then when you listen to interviews, you get a glimpse of who they are
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
And again, I discussed with Oregon, my wife, and I said he really looks like a genuinely good guy.
Yeah.
Okay, fast forward maybe 10, 12 years later, I find myself in Nashville for because my wife is a musician, so we were in Nashville recording songs for her. And I buy the newspaper and I read an article about Walker Hayes and the number one breaking hit song. I knew the song because I listened to the radio. I'm in Nashville. I know country music, and the article was by Marcus Dowling, and he was very well written. The way in just a single article he told Walker Hayes' history, 17 years of challenging times in Nashville, culminating to that song and everything that was happening to him at the time. I told my wife, someone should make a documentary about that. And I didn't tell her, but later that day, I found Walker Hayes' manager email just on Google. And I shot an email like, "Hey, I'm a French filmmaker. I just read that piece of news in a paper, and I would love to make a documentary out of it. This is a fascinating story. I love it. I've been listening to his songs since I first traveled to the US. Now I'm a full-time resident. Blah blah blah." And I never thought he would answer to that cold email. And Rob, Walker's manager, did 20 minutes later. 20
Hmm.
minutes later, I had a response like, we're interested. Can
Wow.
you talk next? Can you talk tomorrow or the day after? Can we jump on a Zoom call? And I found myself on a Zoom call with Rob Colton, manager at Monument Records, and Walker Hayes. I was like, okay, what am I supposed to do? So we just had a chat, and I told them, okay, if we do make a documentary, this is my vision. I don't want to invade Walker's privacy, but I do want to show who he really is and how it works backstage, behind the curtain, how the music industry works, how that song, what happened to make that song explode, how does it affect your life? Because you have that many kids and that big family, so that must be disrupting your life pretty much. And I didn't know it at the time, but I received several documentary offers from big network TVs, and they picked us, two French people in Nashville, to make that documentary because they told me that later. We were the only ones who we did not want to make a reality TV out of it.
Hmm.
So they were not interested in a reality TV aspect, but our idea was really okay, we're going to be a fly on the wall. We're going to have one, maybe two small cameras. We're going to follow you. We're going to witness what's happening. We're going to capture it. Nothing is going to be scripted. Nothing. And until the very last stages of the editing process, I didn't have a script.
Hmm.
At some point, I got stuck because I didn't have a script. And I made like 7 drafts of my documentary in Premiere Pro. And I had the first 2 minutes were great, but then I couldn't find a way to assemble the puzzle. And again, my wife, because she's bright, she bought a big white board and some pens, and she wrote the script. She wrote first the bullet points and the IDs and all of that, and the list of the people that we had interviewed with on the right side. And it became a puzzle, and we moved the pieces around. And at some point on that white board, we had. I'm going to
And
draw this to you.
if you're not watching this, he's writing on a white
Okay.
pad, because we do have a lot of listeners, not people
Yeah.
watching, but he's writing on a big white sheet of paper, as
So
if it's
what
his
we had,
whiteboard.
I'm going to
He's holding
translate
it up.
that.
Yes,
The whiteboard looked like this, the starting point, and
yes,
then that sequence,
yep.
and then that
Like
sequence.
a Candyland board. He's showing this
And that's it.
Candyland game.
So that's what my wife wrote, and that made so much sense. She
Yeah,
connected pieces all together that we had filmed previously. And based on that, I was able to edit each and every sequence separately. And then we put them all together.
I
And
see.
then it made sense.
She
So
is a
that's
smart
why
wife.
thank her. Definitely. She unlocked the editing process in a way that allowed me to have an actual complete 1 hour and a half draft that could make sense and that I could show to Walker and the management team and everybody else. That's
Yeah.
why the documentary is made in sequences, chapters,
Mhm.
because each chapter is going to focus on one thing. Applebee's, TikTok, number one on the charts, the backstory of Walker and his wife and his kids, the kid that they lost when Lainey was giving birth. All these pieces of their story, of the Hayes' family story, came together, and I think it works well. It really works
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, it absolutely works well, and story is such a key important thing in a documentary. I mean, if you don't have story, you don't have anything. I
No,
mean, you can have, 1,000,000 views or 1,000,000,000 views on TikTok, right? But if you don't have a story, it's just 1,000,000,000 views on TikTok. And yeah, people can watch 1,000,000,000 views on TikTok, but
how do you make it interesting?
how do you
How
make
do
it
you make it interesting 2 or
enough?
3 years after the fact?
I mean, 1,000,000,000
Um,
views on TikTok, it means one person is sitting there watching for a minute.
yep,
But how are you going to have somebody sit there and watch for an hour, hour and a half? And how are you going to have more people watch all over the world for an hour and a half more times than, for more than a year,
yep,
I think story. It's really story. And so what's interesting in your story is the behind the scenes, the people, the struggle, the you know overnight success
yeah,
after 17 years of struggle. And truthfully, the Hayes family is a very precious family that cares a lot about one another,
yeah.
that have gone through good times and bad times and would prefer to do life together and be together than have any success in the world. And that is what is beautiful to see, is that success without love and family is emptiness
It's
and nothing.
absolutely, absolutely.
And
We and the way they talk about it, they were the Hayes family. So Walker, Lainey, his wife, and all the kids, even the smaller ones at the time, they were very self-conscious about what was happening, and that self-consciousness, I think, helped them a lot navigate to navigate the overnight fame. I
mhm,
mean, Walker couldn't go in an airport or on radio, or he couldn't walk in Nashville without being followed by 50 people. So suddenly their life changed. But what never changed, and Lainey explained that very early in the documentary, their family, the Hayes family, works as a unit. And when you are with them for 3 months, like we were filming, it's very rare and it's actually very difficult to get only one of them for a single one-on-one interview. They are always either all together or in packs.
right.
So the two younger girls are going to be together with the dogs, and Baylor and Lila are going to be together at the merch table, and Walker is going to be with the tour manager Brian and Monica and other people. It was it was funny because again, nothing was scripted. We would arrive in a venue, any venue in Arkansas, Alabama, Nashville, New York, Florida, and I didn't have a roadmap. Okay, who am I going to follow today? So some days I was following only Walker, and my wife was following somebody else. Maybe, and one day we would say, okay, you go with the kids today, and the next day, okay, you go with Leela, only Leela. And depending on the days, we along the road we found our footing, and the way we work with every movie we make, once we have, let's say, a week of footage, we go to the editing room and we look at what we have, and does it work all together? Are we making sense? Are we telling a story? So the next week, when you go to New York, you know, okay, I need to have more footage of the tour manager because we don't understand what's happening. So we need someone to give us the perspective of, okay, this is a venue that we are renting, and Live Nation is owning the venue. So we want to please Live Nation, let's say, in a simple way. And but everything has to work. So we're very lucky that we've been allowed and able to follow anyone, everyone. Nothing was kept hidden from us, and we built trust with the Hayes family and the management team and the tour management and everyone, the musicians, so they would know we were going to be respectful. And I told them from the get go, from that first Zoom meeting with Walker, I told them, if there is something you don't like when you watch the film, and if there's something that you're not comfortable with, we remove it. Because, and at the end of the day, we filmed, I think we have the equivalent of 33, 35 days of footage. So even if they had told me, and they didn't, even if they had told me, could you remove that? I could have replaced it with something as interesting. But they didn't ask for any change in the editing.
Great.
So it was really a unique experience. We were allowed on stage, 3 cameras some days with Walker during
Wow.
the actual live show.
That's amazing.
So that was, I brought a friend of mine who's a 3 times Emmy Award winning director and cinematographer. And he told me, I've never seen that. He's been doing a lot of things, a lot of documentaries. And he told me, I never had any, it was never even possible to be on stage with someone performing, because you have 2,000 people in the room and you're on stage right next to Walker Hayes, and you have 2,000 people there, and it's like, okay, I don't want to mess that up. This is a unique opportunity, and it shows in the documentary. It's not scripted, it's not perfect. Sometimes the camera is going to move a little bit too much, but it fits the whole vibe of
And
what was happening at the time. They were just living day by day. They would
it's
receive.
cinema verite at its finest.
Absolutely,
Cinema
absolutely.
verite at its
Like, and it's exciting because sometimes it's a mess, because when you have 2 buses, a family of all the kids, the wife. When we filmed, they had 2 dogs. You
I
have the
saw the 2
musician,
dogs. So they didn't have a tour bus at first,
not at
uh,
first.
not at first, but once they did have a tour bus, there were aren't there like 6 kids?
Yeah,
6 kids, 2 parents, 2 dogs, but then you have the whole crew. So there's managers, there's,
yeah. So
um
the whole family is in one bus, and the whole crew, musicians, and tour management is in the second bus. And you also have a big trailer with a lot of equipment in the
right.
back. When they started the Fancy Like tour, they did not have a bus. They were just doing it the old ways, like, okay, driving, flying, showing up, this and that. Okay. And then suddenly the song became a success, to the point they added dates and venues to the tour. And it came to a point that Walker was never home again. So he was completely disconnected to his family. And like we established before, that family works as a unit. So he was not happy. He was depressed, and the family was missing him a lot. So, with the success also came the financial means for the management and the label to say, hey, what if we brought the family on tour with you? And that allowed Walker to continue. At some point, he said, and this is no secret, he said, if this is the way it goes, I'm gonna quit and I'm gonna stop, because between family and fame, I'm gonna pick family any day, any time of day, anytime. So management and the label record company found a way to have a bus for the family, and that was crazy.
Yeah.
we we were again extremely lucky when we went to Florida, when we went to New York. My wife and I were in the bus with
I,
the Hayes family, witnessing everything that was happening there, the fun, the crazy, the homeschooling. Uh, I mean, I've seen Walker sleep with the dogs in the lower bunk in the bus because he didn't have a bed. There are too many of them. So he was sharing a space with the dogs, which he loved it. But the whole dynamic of this family is just something I've never seen before. And we felt, I mean, the small two, three, four people crew we were, sometimes we would film something and like look at each other like, do you get what I'm getting? This is unique. I mean, you've never seen the Rolling Stones in this position. You've never seen Pink or Lady Gaga in this position. And the documentaries that were made of Lady Gaga, Selena Gomez, Michael J. Fox recently, they all show very interesting things, but they are angled on one aspect. It's it's scripted. It's more scripted than what we did. What we did was really cinema verite. Anything that would happen, we would film, and then we would try and make sense out of it and tell a bigger story in the editing room. That subject matter was amazing. And another thing that helped me connect to that topic was the whole business side. How did the song actually became number one on the radio, became number one on the streaming platforms? What happens before that? What's the tipping point? The one thing, is there one person that actually pushes a button to say this song is gonna go play 17 times today on iHeartRadio? And
well, and
actually,
what was amazing that is that did interview
yes, we did.
an executive at TikTok, which was great. I loved hearing. Okay, how does TikTok make this happen?
Yeah,
That was very interesting. And then you did interview iHeartRadio, and you interviewed other country radio DJs, I think it was, and
DJs and programmers, yes.
yes. So yes, that business part of it was interesting to hear because it is an amalgamation. The answer is it's an amalgamation of all of those.
Absolutely. And what I loved, because I think that's my perspective, but I think because we are French, I think people maybe underestimated us and
Mm,
our understanding of what was happening.
probably.
And also because we had complete and full support from Walker Hayes himself, and Lainey, his wife, and Rob, the manager, and the boss of Monument, and Shane McAnally. All these people were in our back. So when I reached out to people at iHeartRadio, at Amazon Music, Spotify Music, we had teeth in the game. So they would say yes to us for an interview because they didn't want to displease maybe Walker and his team. And when we get in a room with them, they quickly say, "Oh, these are two very nice, I think, French people. This is okay. That's going to be easy." And people opened up to
Yeah.
us. They shared information and how it works in the music business, in the streaming business, in TikTok. How does it work? They opened the books to us and they explained the whole details.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
Well, there were a few interviews where I was with my book, with my pre-written questions, and I said, I have to improvise because this is much more. She is sharing much more details than I expected. The lady from Amazon Music, the country music producer, programmer, sorry, she came very prepared and she shared details, numbers,
Hmm.
dates
That's very
about,
unusual.
about how it worked and when it happened and what they did after it happened, what playlist they pushed the song in because of what happened before. So the whole domino effect from TikTok to the music charts, to the radio charts, to the streaming charts. The documentary documents all that. I honestly have never seen any documentary do it because usually they don't share that information.
That's true. That's
So I was in the room like, I was telling to myself, they're going to tell me to cut it. When I'm going to show them the result, they're going to tell me, you can't show that, you have to cut that. Nobody ever said anything. So it's just a one piece of film that I think if you watch the film, if you're a music artist, that's going to help us understand how to get in the next step in the game
yeah.
and how
Well,
to break through the gatekeepers.
Well, and I think it's probably true, for film as well. Like, I don't think it's just
Absolutely.
music. It's probably even true for products as well. That same mindset of how when something fires off in one segment of pop culture or the
Absolutely.
market, how Amazon picks it up or Spotify picks it up or TikTok picks it up. I mean, it just everybody is watching. What that tells you is that every platform is watching every other
Yes,
platform
they
and
do.
figuring out what can we glom onto, because if we glom onto that thing in popular culture and we grab it, then it will become popular on our platform, and then eyeballs will see it on our platform, which means advertisers will have, eyeballs on their stuff on our platform. It's
Yes,
all about, at the end of the day, eyeballs. And every platform wants eyeballs on their platform because they want people to advertise their products on their platform. It's all business
it is. It's
at
all
the end of
business.
the day.
What Marissa Jeffries, who was at the time in charge of the relationship with the music labels in Nashville for TikTok, so Marissa at TikTok explained to us that the song Fancy Like was already on TikTok's radar before the viral video.
That's right.
The song was already playlisted by
Right.
TikTok in the TikTok charts. But because the video became viral, there was no delay between becoming viral and becoming super viral because it was already playlisted.
I
That
see.
means the label, the management, the press, Casey, who does the press for Walker, they did a great job already with that song based on the data they had before.
Mm.
This we might have something, and they all said the same thing. Shane McAnally, Katie McDonald, head of the label, they all felt, Josh Jenkins, who co-wrote the song with Walker, they all felt that song has something that we cannot understand, but it might actually become a hit. Everybody had that feeling, okay, but they did the work. You can have a good song or a good movie or a good documentary if nobody is ready to watch it, and if you do not create the conditions for people to watch it, nothing's going to happen. So it was a lot of work on the music business side and a little bit of luck for that first original viral video. And when you combine that together, it was also the CEO, John, the former CEO of Applebee's, explained that very sharply in very few words. He said, remember, we were at a time, America was coming out of COVID.
Right.
We wanted good news. We wanted to feel good. We wanted to live again and go outside again.
Right.
That the success of Fancy Like happened the right way at the right time and for everybody to enjoy.
That's
But
true.
if you want to create, if you, when a movie studio tries to recreate that, it cannot happen because the one thing that happened with Fancy Like was a connection between a piece of music, a, an artist, honest and real, and a moment in time.
Yeah.
What movie studios, in my view, very modest view, never get right is the moment in time.
Yeah.
That's why Barbie was a success.
Hmm.
They did all the marketing work, and that was great. But the movie Barbie came out at a moment. It created an echo within the society, and that's what we needed to hear. That's the fight we wanted to take. And same for Fancy Like, that was basically an emotional response to a need we had to get out again, remove the masks, and listen to good music and have a tailgate, a barbecue. And that was
And
it.
dance.
And
Yeah.
dance.
Yeah. Yeah, so true. This conversation is fascinating. All of those things are so amazing. We have been talking now, believe it or not, for 45 minutes.
Oh, true.
Yeah, it's been amazing. But there's so many things we need to touch on. So I'm going to move us along now to the
Okay.
business part of it. Well, actually, I want to ask you one quick question before we go on to the business part of it. Talk to me about what the hardest part was in terms of the actual filmmaking. Give me a couple of the challenges that you faced. I want to hear a little bit about that. And then I want to go into the business part of it. I want to know how you met Virgil Films. And then I want to know what happened after you met Virgil Films. You're going to be releasing, or you have released. Tell us where you are in that. So those are the things I want to hear about. Then we're going to jump into our DocuView Deja Vu, where I hope you'll tell us about a documentary that you recommend. So that's our roadmap to get us out
Yep.
of here. So we've got another, let's say, 15 minutes. So let's move through that to take us to the end.
So the hardest part, we've touched on the editing already. Finishing the editing of the movie to show it to everyone was challenging because we had so much to tell and we had to make choices. The other thing that was honestly difficult, if I'm very honest, was to sign the actual contract between our production company and Walker's production company. Uh, the one big mistake I did was we filmed it all without a contract
Oh, from the beginning?
from the beginning. Yeah.
Oh,
So when we reached the kind of the end of the process, it was okay. Now I need to secure the rights. I need that,
yeah.
and that took a long time. That took a long time because Walker's label, Monument Records, is an affiliate of RCA,
Okay.
RCA Music, and RCA is an imprint of Sony Music.
Oh, goodness.
Yes,
That means
so
you have
that's
several layers of people
yes,
then that
several
have to,
layers of people that work in the same company, but actually not really.
right?
They are all supposed to work together, but not really. So our contract went up very high in the ranks and never came back. And then we had to start it over again. So it took a long, long time to secure the paperwork. We never had any issue with Walker or with his management or with Monument Records, okay? But it's just the machine of it, the whole big company, music, national music companies, record companies, that took a long time. So believe me, since then, anything I do, I consult with legal first. Okay.
Yes.
But that was my mistake and I knew it, but I got absorbed by the whole creative side.
Mhm.
So my fault, but we solved that in the end. And then how I met Virgil. So Virgil Films is our distribution company for the documentary. I first met with Caroline. who's a Canadian with a UK based company. And she's also a distributor, but she works for us as a sales agent.
Okay.
So, what I do when I have a movie, I just look at similar movies and who's working with who. So, who's handling distribution for that film? Who's handling distribution for that country music documentary? All of that. So, during my research, I came across Caroline's work, and she's been working on some very interesting films. And you can tell when you look again at the interviews, when you do your research, you get a sense of how serious and committed and involved some people are in the business. So we get in touch with Caroline, and she took the film on, and Caroline found Virgil for us. I didn't know Virgil existed, and I'm very happy I do now.
Yeah.
So our trajectory was making the movie, find a sales agent, and the sales agent found Virgil. Virgil is handling North America for us, for everything, but they only have North America.
Okay.
And then there's going to be a question at some point: do they want to handle the rest of the world, other territories? Do we want to work with different people? That's still a question, but we want to release the film first. The movie is getting out November 19 on VOD, Apple, Amazon, and a bunch of other streaming platforms for rental and
And
to
that's
own.
coming up. So I think by the time that this comes out, it will come out around the same time. So
Yeah,
if you're listening to this, start looking out for Fancy Like by Matt Beurois and his wife, Oregon.
Oregon,
Oregon, yes. You guys need to check it out for sure. Well, I will tell you, I have nothing but high praise for Virgil Film and Joe and Tim. I think that you will
agreed.
be quite happy. What I love about dealing with them is they will take your call at any time. They are very transparent. They will be very open about the process. And I've been very happy. I've been working with them for the last 2 years, and it's been a great experience. So I think that your film was going to do great, and you're going
I
to
hope
enjoy
so.
the ride. Yeah, you're going to enjoy the ride. All right. So we love to ask documentary filmmakers if there is any film documentary film they can recommend our audience. So now is the time of our favorite time in our documentary podcast called DocuView Deja Vu. Do you have a documentary film that you can recommend to us?
I would say the documentary on Apple about Michael J. Fox.
Oh, yeah.
I don't remember the name of it. Actually, I don't remember the title, but I've seen that one, and he took me by surprise. Um, I did not expect the camera to be allowed to go in such intimate levels with Michael J. Fox and his disease and the way he dealt with it. Um,
It's called Still.
Still,
Yeah. It's on Apple
and
TV Plus.
Apple TV Plus, the cinematography was really good. The interviews, I could relate to the way they did the interviews, the way that Michael J. Fox very easily goes off track, not
Mhm.
because of the disease or anything, but just because you could feel that Michael J. Fox at some point don't really care about how he looks
Mhm.
from the outside. And that gives him so much power over his own likeness and image. And that was so generous of him to allow a camera to capture that.
Mm.
I think that's unique. I think that's going to become a legacy documentary. And it was made in a very simple way, but so human that sometimes documentaries and movies, especially movies, we overinflate and we overdo a lot of things because we need to sell them. So we need to
Yeah.
make it big, we need to make it bright and shiny. And that documentary just didn't care.
No.
So that was very interesting in terms of decision making for for making a film. That was very courageous.
Yeah, I agree with you. Great film. Well, do you have anything to share with us about what you're working on next?
My next movie is going to be sci-fi action independent film.
Okay.
The title is American Game. We filmed that actually before we filmed Walker Hayes with a very dear friend of mine, Jensen Panettiere. He's the younger brother of Hayden Panettiere, who
Okay.
was in Heroes and one of the Scream movies. Jensen actually passed away not that long ago. So that's going to be the very last film you're going to be able to watch him in.
Wow.
And when he passed away, I saw a bunch of short films and stuff get out in a rush, literally the next day after his death. And I did not want to be that kind of guy. I did not want to release my movie in a rush. So we decided, let's wait because we want to finish the movie the best we can. We want to make his work look the best we can because that's going to be again his last movie.
Mm.
So we wanted to be truthful to his work, and yeah, but it's an independent action film. So we didn't have any money to make it, and we made it. It's an adventure sci-fi. Um, the boy wakes up in a desert. He has no memory, doesn't know who he is, and he realized pretty quickly he's part of a game where people are trying to kill other people. And he's going to try and survive. And the more he's going to go in the movie, the more he's going to remember and learn and adapt and adjust. He's going to find a partner, and the two of them are going to try to escape the game. So it's yeah, indie flick.
Wow.
Um, we shot that in the heat of the California desert in June and July. I got so sick because of that. But we were maybe, I think we were 7 or 8 people total to make the film.
What year was this?
It was, I think it was just before or after COVID.
Okay.
Uh,
Oh, that'll be interesting. So your work is very varied.
yeah, I'm proud of that.
Yeah.
I just don't want to make French drama movies one after the other. I wish my filmmaking path is going to take me in different directions. So my first film was a horror film with
Yeah.
zombies, and then that film was an action film, and then the documentary.
Right.
So we'll see what's next. But having the ability to explore different genres
Yeah. It's
and work with
fantastic.
different people, that's what's interesting. Yeah.
That's great. Well, it has been interesting to me to meet you and to have this conversation, to learn about your film and see things through your point of view. And I look forward to getting to know you more. So I'm thankful that our audience has gotten to know you, and I hope that they will get to experience your work. Everybody, I hope that you guys go and watch Fancy Like Walker Hayes. So thank you, everybody, for listening to Documentary First, where we believe everybody has a story to tell, and you can be the one to tell it. Bye, everybody.
Thank you very much.